Welcome, Coach, to Falcon Focus. Greg Nikolai joining me today, Steve Shar here, to get to know Greg a little bit more and kind of see what's been going on since the whole COVID-19 thing has come to. Coach, thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
How have you been doing lately? I guess, what have you been up to?
Well, I've been trying to reach out to recruits through various avenues to keep in contact with them and to introduce ourselves to new kids and new recruits, both on the men's side and the women's side. I would say since this all has started, we've been probably in contact with over 1,000 kids. Between using NCSA, NSR, there's a couple other choices that we're looking at, in addition to the NCAA portal, transfer portal that just opened up to us. We've been reaching out, sending emails to kids and just trying to see what their plans are and would they consider Concordia as an opportunity or an option for their continued education.
When you're out recruiting for certain players, do you look for a certain type of player, or is it basically if you can shoot low, that's the person we need?
Well, we're looking for, obviously, athletic abilities. As you know, that's important. And along with a higher GPA, because if they have a higher GPA, we don't have to worry about them meeting the NCAA eligibility, okay? And we have had a couple of scary issues with that. We've had one person ineligible for a national championship. So we want to make sure that we're getting kids high enough above that threshold to begin with that we don't have to focus on that. If we need to, we'll step in, obviously, but it'd be nice to just have kids that will handle it on their own, let's say, because they all want to be treated like adults. So they need to start acting like adults as well, and at that point. But if we can get kids with over 3.0 GPAs and then that can play and become a instrument of change, let's say, within the team concept, that's what we're looking for. And we need that both on the men's and the women's side. The men's side will be graduating 2 of our best players in school history coming up next month, and we need to replace them somehow. And whether that's incoming freshmen, transfers, players on campus that play golf, but I'm not aware of, we're trying to reach out and figure out who can play and who could be of help. And we're going through whatever avenues we need to find them.
Let's rewind to the fall, looking at the women's championship. What was your assessment then? How did you guys think you did as a team?
Based on the competition, I thought we finished right about where I expected us to finish. Best case scenario, we would have played a little bit better and finished 3rd, but I didn't believe that we had the quality of depth that we've had in some previous years where we did compete for the championship. And I knew that Aurora was going to be good. The preview event, they won by 60, 70 shots, something like that. I had to figure they were going to be right up there. We were, I think, finished 4th place at the preview event, but we didn't play that well. And had we played better for 3 days, I think we could have caught Lakeland or Benedictine in that mix, but we didn't play as good as we needed to. Weather got a little sloppy out there as well. We had some rain overnight, so conditions got a little tough. But they played about where I expected them to play. And if we get some new talent into the team for next year, I anticipate we'll move up.
And then on the men's side, the men's championship is split. 36 holes in the fall, 36 in the spring. So you completed the 36. I believe 4th place is where you guys sat on the men's side. Is it difficult having the tournament, the championship split like that?
Absolutely. We have players that, have this 6-month break because of winter. We have players that will maybe in their final semester not take it as seriously or more seriously. It's hard to say it based on the individual. But you also have players that might be graduating, maybe not be eligible to play. You may get a transfer in. It's an odd scenario. We're about one of the few conferences in the country that do it that way. And there's been some talk about trying to move it all to the spring or all to the fall. I don't know what the right scenario is. I mean, a Saturday, Sunday, Monday with a 36-hole Monday finish might be the answer. But, there's smarter people out there than me to figure that out. But I would say that that's an option that we need to look at, I think, as well. But then the whole thing would washed out this year.
True. As the chair of the golf committee, has there been any talk amongst the golf coaches about any of the possibilities of changing the men's championship to try to
Men's,
get it
no, not really.
or different?
No, the men's have not said anything about wanting to change. The coaches seem to like that format for some reason. And being one of the newer coaches, it's not something that I have full control of change, even, as the NCAA chair or representative to the conference. So it's just going to be until we get enough coaching changes or there's an event that triggers that, I would see it maintaining that way for a few more years anyways.
I want to talk about your seniors. Maybe what have they meant to the program on the men's and the women's side? Maybe some lasting legacies or messages that they maybe gave to the team on their way out? Well,
from the message standpoint, it ended so abruptly that no, we really didn't get that opportunity to do it, because in the spring we had some nightly practices for the first couple of weeks, and we had we were doing yoga on Tuesday and Thursday, and based on some of the schedules, we didn't necessarily have everybody there on that final day. And knowing that we were going to be going on spring break that following Monday, I actually canceled the last Friday practice indoors. So the last time I saw these kids was March 12th, I think.
Okay.
And we really didn't have that wrap-up type meeting because we then went on spring break and kids had to get all their stuff out of the dorm room. So from that perspective, the lasting legacy, I think, will be their playing records. In that Sam and Andrew both graduating with, 50 rounds apiece or 60 or 70 under their belts will leave the legacy of going out as number 1 and 2 in scoring average in the program's history, which is kind of cool. And looking at the number of records that those guys were part of, from the 18-hole individual records, the 36, the 72-hole scoring records, and all the team records that we've broken in that time frame, have been somewhat amazing. I think from a team record standpoint of 18-hole finishes, we have 8 or 9 of the top 10 scores in the last 4 years. Thing with the 36-hole totals. The 72-hole championships that we've played in since I've been here are top of the leaderboard for the school's history. And it's not a terribly long history because they used to play a 54-hole championship, but we have broken the record almost every year after year, which is kind of a neat legacy for those guys to be part of at this time.
One of the questions I wanted to ask you is about the records. Before I get to that, you had mentioned yoga. How did the yoga thing come about with your team? And I guess, why do you do it? What's the importance do you see in yoga with golfers?
Well, a couple of my former players, Jake Lipsky and Matty Zastro, both were very physically fit athletes from playing in their hockey days. And they wanted to do yoga. So I reached out, I found a yoga studio close by, and we did it. And I was somewhat skeptical at first. I did the sessions with them, and it's like, that's a pretty good workout. When you look at the core strength needed, the flexibility, and just the overall balance and the breathing aspect of it, it's probably one of the better workout sessions that a golf team could do for the long-term benefit of themselves and for their short playing careers while in school.
And some sports may be different than others, not to pick on coaches, but for example, like Greg Etter in football, he's not necessarily going to be able to jump on the field and do some of the things some of his athletes can do.
Mm-hmm.
You, on the other hand, I know you talked about do the yoga class with your guys and your females. You go to practice and you hit balls and stuff. How is that being, I guess, involved so much with your teams from a training standpoint, or just from them being able to ask you questions?
Well, I enjoy it. I mean, as my background, I'm a PGA golf professional. So for me to know what their games are, I have to see it. I have to be part of it and see them under pressure and under different circumstances of how do you hit this shot. So when we have practices, we will break up into smaller groups and have part of them hitting range balls, part of them putting, part of them on the short game area. And I will, on a day, stay at one location. So I get to see everybody for about 30 minutes and within a pretty small window of space, let's say. And I can watch more than one person at a time hit a golf ball. It's not that hard to do. But we will try to have them execute shots under circumstances so that they kind of feel the pressure, so that they can put it in their memory bank and pull it back out when they need to under that similar circumstance is the idea of doing that.
How have you seen the game of golf change during your time? Because now it seems like for the average golfer in today's game, it's let's see how far I can bomb the ball, get it out there with my driver, and then the rest of the game just completely falls apart because nobody practices that. How has the game changed over the course of time, and how do you use that with your players to try to not worry so much about the driver and actually get the flat stick out and work on that?
That's hard to do. I try to play a little game with them that if they can hit a shot, and I want them to score that shot on a scale of 1 to 10, both on the appearance of that shot and the playability of that shot. And for my better players, they should be at 14 or 15 combination of those two every time. And with the idea that what's more important, the beauty of it or the playability of that shot. And obviously the playability is far more critical because you can hit a good shot and come up 10 yards short and it's in the water or buried into a bunker. But trying to get them to understand you don't have to kill it off the tee. You got to get it in play. You can score much better if you can find it. And from the fairway, knock it on the green. There's no hazards in front of you. You don't have to curve it, hit it high, hit it low, try to stop it on a dime or something like that, or bounce it over a bunker. You can just fly it to the green and let it go from there. The young guys all think they can do the miracle shots, unfortunately. And it's hard to get them out of that.
Don't worry, I try that too.
And not that we all don't want to try it at times, but we have to understand what the limitations are. And par is still a good score. And if you can go to the 18th hole making 17 par, you're going to post a good number. Very few tournaments in the NAC have been won with under par scores. If they just go and shoot par, we're probably going to win most times. And they don't quite understand it. And I say, guys, par's a good score, but coach, birdie's better. Yes, I get it. But you're not going to make that many birdies. You know, think about what's the most birdies you've made in a round, Steve?
Me, personally?
Yes.
2, 3 if I'm lucky.
Okay. I've made 7 or 8, but that's not going to happen every round. And neither is it will for these guys. And just getting them to understand that the par is a good score. Aim for the wide side of the green and 2-putt and go to the next hole. You will beat 95% of the players in the field doing that.
That has happened. Straight down the fairway green, couple of putts. With the amount of records that the men's and the women's side have set during your 3.5, 4 seasons as a head coach, when you came in, was that one of the things on your list of goals is to maybe set records, or has that come naturally as the thinking of the game and the approach of practice has maybe changed under your regime?
Well, I think the records will just come from better play. And part of that is the mindset. It's the practice routine. It's the talent level coming in. When I started, we had one player on the men's team that could break 80 pretty regularly. But at the same point, that same person could shoot 90. we now have 6 players on varsity going into the spring, and with some of the additional hockey players that added to the team, we may have 7 or 8 of those guys that could break 80 on a regular basis. The more players you get that can contribute, the better your team scores are going to be. It's just, you can put any lineup out there. You got 4 guys that you're going to count on to put a number up that'll be pretty decent. And when that happens, you're going to break records left and right just because it's not that hard to do at that point. And we haven't had that guy shoot 66 for us because the school record's only 69. But we've now had 2 people do that since I've been here. And they've done it more than once each, I believe, in addition to other people shooting 2 under par rounds at 70. So it's just a matter of who's going to do it this week and go low kind of thing. Whereas in the past, it's like, oh, geez, I hope I get 4 guys breaking 85, kind of scenario.
What is your approach on the?
They did.
What is your approach on the women's side? Traditionally, over the course of history for Concordia, Wisconsin women's golf, there's been a number of championships. To get back to that championship level, is it more of an athletic practice standpoint that needs to get better? Is it more of a mental approach to the game? Or what do you think needs to get back to championship form?
Well, I think this next fall, God help us that we do play, will be that I've got some players coming in that shoot better scores coming right out of the box. Okay. We've got 7 incoming freshmen for the class. We have 9 that have said they're coming to school. 7 of them have said they're going to play. Of those 7, there's 4 or 5 that can truly make up varsity squad players. Okay. That would give us some depth that we haven't had. And I think it gives us the opportunity to play or have 4 or 5 people all break 90, which on the women's team or side of the equation is what you need to have. In the past, when we've been successful prior to my time, we had the 2 best players in school history prior to me getting here, being Nina Pooch and Muriel. They own most of the individual records on campus for golf. When the year that we won the conference championship under me, we had depth to the roster. We had 4 or 5 players that could shoot a number and help us score. I believe we're getting back to that same scenario for fall of 20. And that's going to be comforting to know. It gives us the ability to play more players, but let them play as individuals for those higher playing scores.
When this whole COVID-19 thing came about, golf courses are one of those businesses that were shut down. Now it's been reopened as of recently. Have you been out every single day trying to get on the course as much as you can?
Have not yet. No, I have not.
Weather's not great, but it's still open.
It's not great. It's our son's birthday on Thursday. He's playing golf on Thursday somewhere, so I'm not sure yet where. But that will be the plan. And I teach at Missing Links in the summertime. They're not open yet. Their driving range, the ranges are closed. My personal preference is to practice a number of times before I try to go out and play, because I don't want to embarrass myself. I like to hit some golf balls and kind of get some idea where the golf ball's trying to go. And I would still recommend that for most people, but obviously that they're making it a little bit harder to do so by not having any practice facilities of any kind open. So, I've got to go to an empty field or come over to your house and we'll beat balls out in the farmer's field out there.
We can. It's got to find them all. If you haven't been able to get out on the golf course, what have you been doing recently?
I've been doing some yard work on the weekend. It was nice out and trying to get the yard ready, I guess, for summer. Tomorrow we'll be returning our son back to home from his Whitewater apartment, and got to make some space in the house for his furniture and belongings, etc. And doing that, our daughter was home this past weekend from Chicago area, and just trying to visit with them and stay as home much as we can, because we're quarantined like everybody, and it's driving us crazy. Would like to see it end and get back to normal. If
your son's coming home, does that mean you do not have to do yard work anymore?
Oh no, I still do, unfortunately. He will be working again at 2 golf courses in the area, and he works at Edgewater 4 or 5 days a week right now in the food service side. So he, in addition to taking his classes online, just like everybody else. So, and they've actually been very busy in the kitchen, with to-go orders, etc. So it's been good to see him busy and not just kind of sitting around having to do that. So, but yeah, he's not a big fan of yard work. I enjoy doing it. Gets me out of the house a little bit and breathe a little bit of fresh air. So.
Couple of random questions before you wrap this up, Coach. At night, is there a show you're binge watching?
Well, we did some binge watching early. We did some Outlander a little while ago. Then there was another show my wife was binge watching. I kind of float in and out of it a little, but we've been watching more movies lately.
Okay.
Etc. And we're starting to do more family Zooms with my siblings. And I've got 5 brothers and sisters. So, and 3 are in Colorado, and 1's in Illinois, and 1's in Door County. So we don't get a chance to see each other all that often. So Zoom is now the best way to do that if we can. So,
what is your go-to meal you're cooking at night? Favorite meal you had to, all the recipe, everything's right in front of you.
Well, Saturday night we made shrimp scampi, and
Okay.
it was excellent. We made enough, and there were leftovers. I had some for lunch today, actually. So it's one of our favorite meals. We both enjoy it. It was our anniversary on Friday, so
Congratulations.
thank you. 27 years. So it was nice to just kind of have a nice quiet meal. And the weather was decent outside. It wasn't great, but 10 or 15 degrees warmer, it'd be even better. So
She's a strong woman to put up with you for that long.
oh my goodness, yes.
In your time in the golf industry, what is one of your favorite tournaments that you've attended?
I would say the Ryder Cup down at Medina in 2012. My wife and I both went. We were there for a couple of days, and it was an enjoyable experience. Something I think everybody should get the opportunity to go see. And hopefully with the Ryder Cup 45 minutes north of here, we'll get the opportunity to see that in late September. But it is a unique event. These guys are not getting paid to play that weekend, which is kind of a different scenario.
Yeah.
But they're playing for love of country and the pride of their country or continent, let's say. And it's a neat experience. I've been to the U.S. Open. I've been to PGA Championships. But to date, I would say the Ryder Cup beats both of those until I get to the Masters. My son and I are looking at some possible 2022 British Open opportunities because that will be the 150th at St. Andrews. And that would be kind of a neat scenario and trip if we can put it all together and make it work. So,
well, I hope you make it, Coach. Thanks for joining us today. Stay safe.
Will do. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
All right. Take care.